strategies for when you lose your spark is come back into heart coherence, because maybe you lost your spark because you forgot that you have access to this beautiful, nurturing, loving, accepting light, this energy. Wouldn't you say? I think that's a beautiful way for us to start this conversation. Strategies for when you lose your spark. Put your hand over your heart and say, I'm coming into heart coherence right now.
I think there was so many golden nuggets. And I remember last week's episode too, there was so many golden nuggets in just that heart coherent exercise. And there was so many, but just choose one. Just choose one. I'm just going to think like this, or I'm going to be like whatever Moira said, whatever those words are, there's just take one tip from that. And
whatever that resonated with you. Yeah.
Debz is a stressologist. She will stretch your mindset to think bigger than you've ever thought before, with follow-through techniques that are realistic and achievable to blow any fear out of your mind. Moira is a mindset cultivator. She will help you align your personal trinity of self-trust, inner awareness, and self-confidence so that you discover and share your unique gifts and purpose. Together, their goal with these conversations is to share how our inclinations do not always work in our best interest, and to provide the knowledge to leverage the gifts that already exist within each one of us. Their desire is to help you learn how to access the habits and behaviors that will lead to positive change and your best quality of life. Welcome to your deliciously motivated mindset.
Welcome, dear listeners. Welcome, dear Deb.
Hello.
You always make me giggle at how you always have some way of saying hello.
Like, what is she going to do today?
What's she going to do today? Is she going to just speak, or is she going to sing? Welcome, dear listeners. Here we are with another of our deliciously motivated mindset podcast conversations with Debz. That would be my yeah, that there. And Moira, that's me. Today, actually, this is a very auspicious episode today. This top tips. No, it's not top tips. This is strategies. Strategies for when you lose your spark. But the reason I know. This is going to be a goodie. But the reason I'm saying it's an auspicious one is it's our last episode of 2024. So our next one, we're going to be speaking to you in 2025. Pretty epic, if you ask me.
It's me dancing, by the way. Yeah, I know. Yeah, next time you hear us, will be a new year.
A new year. Be a year away.
Yeah.
Before we get into talking about our strategies for when you lose your spark, we like to just do a little bit of let's all land into this present time, this present space, and create a wee bit of heart coherence. Heart coherence is when you're really present and you're in your heart and you're receiving the connection of all loving energy that we all broadcast. We actually all broadcast this energy through our heart. Now, in order to do so, we need to attend to our energy vortex first. So the first piece to do, and we'll do it with our breath. So just take a deep, deep breath into your belly. Might even want to put your hands over your belly and feel that inflate. And then breathe out. And now breathe in with the intention that you're breathing in nurturing, calming, beautiful, loving, fulfilling energy from Mother Earth. Breathing that up through the soles of your feet. You might even feel a wee bit of warmth in your feet when you do that. Up your legs, all the way up your torso and into your heart. And hold it there for a moment, activating that, breathing it in. Good, and now breathe out, allowing yourself to really settle in to this space and time. And now take your awareness up to whatever your sensation or your connection with source energy, with with the universe, creator, great spirit, whatever that feels like for you, and breathe that energy down through your crown, through your throat, down to your heart. Now, if you haven't already, you might want to put your hand or both hands over your heart. Allow that to just nurture, to love you, to envelop you. You're being enveloped with this beautiful energy from Mother Earth and Father, whoever that feels like, Source, Sky, the universe. And breathe out. And now, when you breathe in, request any form of soothing, caring, balancing, easing energy. Breathe it into your heart. Now put your stamp of your energy and breathe it out. And imagine and envisage that that's a ribbon, a beam, a stream of light coming from your heart and going all the way around the planet, intersecting. This can be a ribbon of whatever color of light feels right for you. Good. Now breathe that back in, that energy back into your heart. And breathe out, imagining, envisaging, pretending that you see and feel this universal blanket of unconditional love that's being created by these beams and streams and beams of loving light. See that enveloping every being on this planet. You're doing a really powerful thing for yourself, but for the collective, when you choose to just take a wee moment and envisage an exercise like this. And whenever you are and wherever you are, you can simply put your hand on your heart and just maybe even, if you can, close your eyes and envisage that matrix or that blanket of energetic compassion that's always there. It's always there. We just need to remember to tap into it. That's actually right there. Strategies for when you lose your spark is come back into heart coherence, because maybe you lost your spark because you forgot that you have access to this beautiful, nurturing, loving, accepting light, this energy. Wouldn't you say? I think that's a beautiful way for us to start this conversation. Strategies for when you lose your spark. Put your hand over your heart and say, I'm coming into heart coherence right now.
I think there was so many golden nuggets. And I remember last week's episode too, there was so many golden nuggets in just that heart coherent exercise. And there was so many, but just choose one. Just choose one. I'm just going to think like this, or I'm going to be like whatever Moira said, whatever those words are, just take one tip from that. And
whatever resonated with you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Whatever resonated with you. Yeah, that's it. Or choose one that doesn't resonate and do that.
And try that out. Yeah.
But whatever it is. And it made me think when she was doing the heart coherent exercise, I was thinking one of the tips for when you lose your spark is sing or dance or shake it off. Shake it up.
Yes.
And I think especially because this is New Year's Eve in New Zealand,
yes,
just over the side of the world, like whatever it is. So sing, dance, shake it up, let it out, and move. Basically, move your mouth, move your arms, move your body, whatever that is, because that instantly. I know Tony Robbins does it. Hang on, you're doing something, and then you have to jump in the air and punch the fist in the air, and you say, make a move. That's it. It's something that does not.
That's that change your state, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So this is what I'm talking about. Change your state, but not in a Tony Robbins way, in a Debz and Moira way. Whatever. Yeah,
because you could also add voice. You could chant. You could make a noise with your throat.
Whatever works for you. And tomorrow may not. I don't know. I'm looking at the other computer. Tomorrow may not work, but.
Yeah.
Clearly tomorrow, my computer's tomorrow, but tomorrow it may not work, that one, so try something else, but just move it around. If you're looking to lose your spark, sometimes we need the battery recharge. in our car to get us going, that give us that jumper lead. So give yourself your own jumper leads and shake it up, shake it off, move, whatever it is, shout, scream, laugh. Oh, what Moira's favorite, which is actually lethal. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you this exercise, but it's very lethal because and she knows what I'm going to say. It is babies laughing.
Yep.
It's
Love
you
it.
go on.
Go on
I
YouTube.
lost about one day. I lost about over 3 hours. I literally was sitting and I started scrolling and I laughed and I went to the next one. And literally, my partner came out and said, what are you watching? Because all I could hear is this laughter and you laughing. What's this movie that you're watching? It's a
Oh,
long
she
movie.
thought.
And I'm like, oh, it's just babies laughing on YouTube. She's like, you've been out here outside for. I was like, yeah, okay, I know, but so I will tell you that will take you on a tangent if you want it to. So if you want to lose your spark, you've got nothing else to flip and do, by the way, is find out what that is and watch something. Give yourself a good bloody laugh, a good belly laugh, because they're the things that definitely shift your state into a quicker being.
Yep.
Baby,
Yep.
but I will tell you it's lethal. You have been warned. My finger's out again. You have been warned. There's
So give yourself permission, but maybe set a timer on it.
but don't spend all day watching babies or do it. You got nothing else to do, or do it, whatever it is for you.
But then you would come away with your spark completely reignited, wouldn't you?
Yeah. And also my partner, she couldn't hear any. All she could hear was me laughing. She couldn't hear the movie or anything that I was watching. It wasn't a movie. All she could hear was me laughing and roaring with laughter. And she's like, "What movie is she watching out there?" No, I wasn't. But it just changes your energy. You can't have a cranky day when you're laughing.
Nope.
I don't believe.
I totally agree. Totally agree.
Yeah. But babies laughing is a great one. But if you don't like babies, find something else. But
Who
just
doesn't
about
like babies. No.
Well, I'm surprised Deborah does, because she doesn't like a lot of words, but
Yeah. So you're saying change your state, like watch babies' laughter. But the tip that I wanted to put in here was, I think it's a really important thing to accept and investigate. So if you're in a situation that you've lost your spark, accept that for right now, this is where I'm at. And investigate what will or what could ignite your spark. Maybe it will be baby's laughter on YouTube, but maybe it will be dancing or singing or doing a brain dump. That's also, Deb and I both have talked about the brain dump in previous episodes, that sometimes we need to just write it all down, write everything down that's we've got to do this and this isn't right and I don't like this and I don't want that, and maybe it's time to just declutter. Actually, because we're talking, well, it's Australian New Year's Eve.
Timing.
But it is perfect timing. Level the playing grounds. Get all of the cobwebs swept out to set the stage for the new year that we're stepping into, right? And that in itself. But so not only accept and investigate, but the next one I'm going to say right on the heels of that is trust. Trust that if you've lost your spark, maybe it's just that it's dimmed a little. It's not gone, right?
It's always there. I find it's always
there.
Sometimes that cloud, or somebody says something and it throws us right out, or we watch something or we hear something or whatever it is, and it can throw us off kilter. But just know, I guess it goes back to, I love that trust. It goes back to what Dr. John DeMartini says. Everything's on the way, not in the way.
Yeah. That's one of my favorites that you bring into these conversations. Yeah.
And so just thinking, if this has thrown me out and I'm now immobilized on the couch and I can't think of anything worse apart from just eating junk and just, doing whatever, then just know that this is all part of being on the way, and it's not in the way, but it's when you choose to change your mindset to see it as on the way. Yeah.
That's interesting. It's an interesting point what you were saying, though, is that if you have lost your spark, it does not give you the right to be mean to yourself.
Oh, no, what? Oh, sorry.
No
Shoulders way back. No
way.
way. No way, Jose. Because we don't need that entering our world as it is. Yeah.
But don't you think some people are, and I think I can think of times where I've done that to myself. It's like, for goodness sake, Moira, you're a meditation teacher, you're a coach. You like, of course you have to, or you should, or what's wrong with you, or and because we
You should know
can
better. You should know better. What about that one? When I said to someone, I said, I'm a little bit discombobulated lately. I've got a little bit of stress going on. Well, you should know better. It was like, did you want to punch in the nose? It was my instant reaction. Tell me I should know better. Yes, but sometimes I'm human and I don't go into my thing.
Sometimes
But
you're human.
be nice to yourself. Yeah, sometimes I'm human. Be nice to yourself and others as well.
Yeah.
What's
So
that one
being
we say?
kind to yourself can actually ignite that spark in itself. Just being kind, right?
Isn't there a saying that would you use that mouth? Would you say those things to a friend that you
Or
say
to
to
someone
yourself?
you cared about. Yeah.
And the answer's and I've never
No.
heard anyone say yes.
No, I've never either.
Like, no, I'd never say that. And I'm like, right, you are more important than that person. But it's that awareness of ourselves as well. You
I've
know.
done that. I've done that with clients before who have really locked in with that inner critic, like shaming themselves and being super mean. And I can remember having a conversation with a client where he was doing that. Like he was relentless on how much of a schmuck he was, and he was terrible, and he's failure here, failure. And I paused him at one moment and I said, "Would you speak to your son like that?" And he went,
Yeah.
no.
Oh,
So I said, so what, how would you talk to your son? And he starts telling me all this, like it was a business deal had gone wrong, and the two of them worked together. And so I said, so let's say your son came to you and said, Dad, I feel like a schmuck. I did this and da, 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 da. What would you say? Well, you should have heard all the beautiful things, the loving
oh.
compassion that came out. And I'm like, okay, good. Now it's within you. So can you start talking to yourself like that?
How did he cope with receiving that information? Because often we don't, well, we hear it, but we don't hear it. There's
Yeah.
hearing it come out of our mouth, but until you actually, it sinks into the heart and pulls that together. And then you're just like, oh no, that's not great. And sometimes I'm going to say Moira being accountable to pull him up on that, because he will have heard it in his head, but probably not in his heart. And when you questioned him,
Mhm.
it would have gone, oh, actually, you're right. There's a point here.
Mhm. He
So I
did.
think,
Unfortunately, he still is got the propensity to go into the I'll speak nicely over here, but not so good when it's about me.
oh, well, he can hear it though, and then he's choosing to do what he does with it. But
Yeah.
I think that's that other things, strategies to lose your spark. I'm going to bring in a tip of having an accountability partner, and that accountability partner is Moira or Debs. Clearly, I'm
Mhm.
going to say that,
Of
but
course.
we're here to find that spark with you. The spark is there. It just sometimes needs reigniting and whatever it
Or
is.
having
But
somebody hold space for you where you actually say, oh yeah, gosh, it is there. Right?
we're not going to, Laura and I work in a way that we're not going to tell you what your problem is. I hate to tell you, by the way,
Yeah, no,
we're going
sorry. Sorry, not
to,
sorry.
sorry, not sorry, you're not getting that out of me. Here's your problem. We're going to teach you how to fish. We're not
Mhm.
just going to hand you fish. We're going to teach you how to fish. And that alone is a gift, because that spark you don't see is lost anymore. It's there, but it comes out of you, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So reach out to Moira or Debs, because we are clearly here for you. So, or talk to a friend or a colleague or a family member, but also remember they have their own stories, they have their own agendas, they have their own stuff. And even if you've moved on from having that, lost your spark, and you haven't spoken to them for 2 weeks, they're going to come back and go, and how are you?
Yeah.
Last time I saw you, and their voice changes. Last time I saw you, you weren't in a good space.
Yeah,
Are
yeah.
you okay? And then you're left with, oh my God, that was like I had a 30
That was
minute
like 3 years ago.
yeah, exactly. But they
Yeah.
still remember, remember that. And then their voice changes. Remember the time. Remember the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
No, actually, I don't, because I've moved on and I've
Yeah, because I'm
closed it.
so not that person.
Yeah, that's it. But they do. So be aware of dear friends, dear family, dear colleagues, dear human resources when you offload to them about something. Oh, remember the time. Yeah. They do. They change their whole body language, and you're like, oh my God, please don't bring that up. I've dealt with that. I've moved on. Like, that's your stuff now.
You know, I love that you brought that up because this reminds me, and this is something clients of mine will know this, that I often bring this point up that I'm about to make. It comes from the book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Yes.
And that book is all about, he interviewed all of the successful people of his time. It's about 100 years ago, I think, or more.
Zillion, yeah.
Yeah. But he came up with all of these, I think there's 13 principles of what it takes to be successful. But the one that I always think of when we're talking about this, like accountability partners and sharing what it is we're working through or what our ideas are. One of the parts that he talks about is to be very, very mindful of who you share your problems or your turmoil or the fact that you've lost your spark or that you've got this brilliant new idea. He said, be very careful who you share that with, because you want to make sure that you're sharing it with somebody who gets you, who supports you, who has neutrality even. It would be an important part, because if you told it to somebody that you already knew was going to say, oh, don't be silly, you can't have that, or you can't do that, or you shouldn't be feeling like that. The point being is that is your creation. You created it. So if you go and share something that's vulnerable or a little bit uncomfortable to someone that you don't entirely vibe with, then you've actually created even more of this sensation of having lost your spark. Does that make sense?
And it does. And just even you saying that reminded me of when I first got into my business 18 years ago, and the government gives you 6 months of free mentoring. So I was like, oh, business mentoring, this is great, because I know my skill. I don't know how to build a business. And I had a gentleman, the first woman I didn't gel with, so I just said, I don't like this. And they said, oh, you're the first person to ever say no to somebody. Usually we just accept that person and that's who you've got for 6 months. I said, but I don't like her and she doesn't like me.
Right.
So there's nothing going to happen. So they reluctantly moved me. And to think about this, I must have been like their worst person. I'm like, no, I don't like that person. And I knew I just didn't want to share my stuff with this person. For a start, she didn't believe in mindset.
Right.
And I'm like, my whole business, again, I have to Google because this is all happened a couple of weeks ago. But it was just, I was left with, how can you help me build my business if you don't believe in mindset? Like, this just seems ridiculous. Because she was more a shop. What product do you have to sell? And I'm like, well, you're not my mentor because I'm a service provider, not product. That's it. As I've evolved 18 years later, my product is now all online. So that's a bit different. But back then I didn't have a tangible
tangible product.
It was like a handkerchief. I didn't have a box of tissues for you to sell. But I think that was that thing and so when I got my new person and then he said, oh, you must have a niche and you must have this. And there was all these tick boxes and I just didn't feel comfortable with him. And he said, in all my years, and I didn't gel with that second person either, but I decided to let them go. And because I was like, I can't do this twice, because the lady said, we've made an exception, you have to stay with this next person. And I didn't like the next person as well. And I was like, is this me? Is it them? And I'm like, you know what? You're obviously not ready, Deborah. Build your own business. So I went back to the philosophies because I was trained under John DeMartini. And I looked at his philosophies to build that business. And that felt more congruent with me. And so I guess the other thing is being okay to say no to people and let people go if they're not on your train. They don't. So I was getting 6 months of free mentoring, which probably would have been about $5,000. I don't know back then how much that would have been worth. And it was a gift to have that opportunity, but it didn't feel right for me. They didn't feel right. So they weren't my people. And I think that's reminding, we talk about having Debz and Moira or other people, is also knowing, you want the ones who are cheerleaders for you, but you've actually got to get along with them, and people who actually poke you and go, hey, come on, let's bring back to reality. Is that really what you want to do? and having that. Does that all make sense?
It 100% does, because you know what this is a long time ago. But the example that came to my mind was when I was learning how to drive. And I think I paid for like a block in the UK. We had to pay for X amount of lessons when you're doing. I think I paid for like 12 lessons or something, and then that was to take
in
you.
New Zealand as well. Yeah. Way long time ago.
Yeah. So my driving instructor was a woman, and I think I'd chosen a woman because I thought, well, I resonate with women and generally
How old were
speaking.
you? How old were you then? So what, 14, 15?
20. No, I was 20.
Oh, okay. Well, when did you get your license over there?
Oh, I could have got it earlier. I could have,
you're a late bloomer.
but part of my life story, well, because well, this is part of my story. I was in a cult for 2 years, so I didn't do it then. Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah. Forgot that part.
Yeah,
but so no, was that?
Forget you had a life outside our podcast.
But I didn't vibe with this woman. She was really just harsh and jarring, but of course I'd paid for it, and I didn't. This is why what made me think of it is you said, no, I don't get on with this person. I said, okay, I signed up for this, I paid for this, and I put up with it. I put up, like, the car she was teaching me and had dual controls. If she didn't like what I was doing, she'd just take over.
Oh,
Which is to me the worst way of learning. Anyways, so I did all of the lessons, and guess what? I failed my driver's exam.
you would. I would be surprised if you said you'd passed.
I know, but so what happened was, and I knew immediately I did not pass because of my experience with this woman. So I then, and actually it was my boss at the time, says, Moira, you got to sign up right now. He wouldn't let me kind of go and lick my wounds because I failed.
Wallow on your own.
So he recommended, and it turned out that this second driver instructor lived really close to where I did. And so he sold me a pack of 3. And in our first lesson, he said, you're a really impeccable driver. I don't understand how come you didn't pass. And he told me also I didn't need the 3. I just needed somebody to have confidence in me, basically. And I really, really vibed with this guy, and of course, passed my second one with flying colors. But that was such a good lesson.
I get that. I'm covered in goosies when I think about that. And it's having the right tribe around, the right community. But you don't want everyone going, you're amazing, you're amazing. Like sometimes I America's Got Talent things, and they have the singing ones, and I'm like, who told that person to get up and sing? Who told that? You've got clearly some parents who go, you're an amazing singer and you should go on the show, and then they get belittled because they're not amazing. So you definitely want people to tell you the truth, but remember their truth is filtered through their own perception. So
but you want a sense of support. You want supportiveness. With that truth. Yeah.
You're not you're shy. Don't go on America's Got Talent. Some of them I'm just like, and then you go back to the parents. The parent go, they're amazing. They sing every day. We encourage them, and I'm like, hey, are you tone deaf? Because even very little singing talent can tell. But it is that, say no to people, and you don't offend people. You only offend if you're not certain about yourself and how you do. And I think that's that. And I know last week, and it happens to be a post-it note that I've got clear on my desk. On our podcast, we said, may your head and heart speak with one voice.
Yeah.
And if you're saying no to people, remember that your head and heart speak with one voice.
Yes.
When you're having that conversation with people, to say no or move on or excuse when you want to do all your excuses and all those things that I encourage you not to do, but sometimes it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, may your head and heart speak with one voice.
And that's such an important check-in before, like anytime so when you feel like you've lost your spark, you might need to have some uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah. Well, it is that see, heard, acknowledge that we want to have with other people, but it's also see, hear, and acknowledge yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
on yourself with your words and kind and nurturing, then it's not just to you, it's to you and others as well. So seen, her, acknowledged. Yeah.
And that's a beautiful one to think of, seen, heard, and acknowledged, because if you feel like you've lost your spark, you just need to be seen. Oh, look, I'm feeling like I've lost my spark.
And
Acknowledge it, and
that's what led you.
reignite.
He saw you, he saw you, heard you, and acknowledged you.
Yeah.
And then just went, oh, okay, I just needed that. Instead of your boss going, you can do this. I'm like, I have to go back. Can't I just lick my wounds for a little bit? No, away we go.
Nope.
But having that, yeah. I love
Yeah.
that.
And so that's the thing. And that is the truth of our journey through life, is there are ups and downs. There's discombobulation and joy and sparkle and celebration. Well, that's a good tip. We didn't talk about celebration.
What? We haven't
When
done
you lose your spark, celebrate. There's something for you to do.
A quick wee message before we get back to this episode. You can get access to a special gift Moira and Debz have put together for you. Go to deliciouslymotivatedmindset.com/gift. When you sign up, you'll receive instant access to an inner peace kit and the 30 Days of Wisdom program, both of which is intended to help you feel deliciously motivated right away. Go to deliciouslymotivatedmindset.com/gift.
Yeah.
That you get to do.
To work on. Yeah.
Yeah, but you do it from a space, and this is what I'm saying, is that life is a journey of ups and downs and peaks and valleys, and when we get to just get into flow and be calm and present and celebrate the things that you get to do, and not get caught up in this shouldn't be happening because I did this already, and why am I why is this happening again? Like that creates more of that resisty type of energy.
Yeah.
Which we can get into if we start going, well, I shouldn't be feeling this, and I should get out of it faster. And
yeah. And anything, when you lose your spark, it's actually not permanent.
100%.
It's not. It's just
It
because who
can't
you
be
were.
permanent.
Yeah, definitely. But who you were at the start of this podcast is definitely different to who you are now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your spark that you thought, we used to do our PEMs at the start of our podcast, and if you felt like you're an 8 being out of 10, 10 being the worst, if you feel that you were an 8, like who you are now, three-quarters of the way through this podcast, is a different person.
Yeah.
So your spark is already changing from that. And so I think things move. It's not permanent. It can change at any time when you're ready.
When you're ready. I think that this, and we did this in our last episode too, I think this would be an important area to get clear on defining what losing your spark means to you. Right?
This could be a permanent. That's actually a great one. Yes.
So what does it mean to you, Deb? What does it mean to you if you said you lost your spark?
Lack of energy. Mine would be lack of energy.
Okay.
As in, I lost my spark, can't think clearly. If I lost my spark, see, it's quite I just lost my drive to do anything. Just that's it. I just want to switch off. But also knowing that I could switch off and I can sit on the couch and zone out on a movie or anything like that, or sit outside.
Mm-hmm.
That's all part of my healing process.
Yes.
So I guess that trust. I trust that every step is on the way, not in the way.
Yep.
So even if I do lose my spark and I'm having a brain fart trying to write together a program, then I move on and I'll come back to it. Like I'll just recalibrate myself.
I like that. And I resonate with that too. It's like if I've lost my spark, I'm coming up with reasons how come I can't do this. Nope, not going to do this. Not going to work on that email. Not going to do this article. Not going to do that. And so that to me is it's time to retreat. It's time to go out, go for a walk, go play with my cat. Maybe I am going to go and sit and watch a movie.
Well,
But
see, that's your self-soothing kit, and I call my
yes,
glove kit as well. It's that I'm just going to do something away from what I've got right here, right now.
yep,
And you give yourself permission to do that.
yes, yes,
And I
because
think
you can't force yourself through it, right?
it's like, "Ugh." It's like pushing a wet noodle. If you're that wet noodle, you can't push yourself. You can't. And I mean, it just becomes more and more frustrating if you try and force things. Now, I have to giggle, and I'm going to tell a story, just a brief one, is that I was trying to pull my necklace off this all the time in this whole podcast. I was fiddling and fiddling and fiddling, and I got to the point I was about ready to break it. It was just irritating me. And it got to a point I went, I'm just going to pull the whole blooming thing down and I'm going to break it. But when I actually surrendered and let it go and just went, it can wait till the end of the podcast, Deborah. It's really not irritating you that much. Just lean forward a bit and it's not going to touch it. Like I just had this whole, it's got to come off. It's got to come off. And I went to it a crazy. And when I just paused and took that desperation away, of course, I moved my neck and I went, oh, my necklace. And I went straight bang and it came off. And I was like, of course that happens, because we've got that trust that it's going to happen when it's at the right time. And I also let the desperation go of it had to be now,
Yeah.
this now. Losing my spark, I need to get it back because it's New Year's Eve and I'm going out tonight and I've got to do, and just know that New Year's Eve is just a date. Can I just say that to people? It's just a date. It doesn't have to be like there's so much hype. What are we going to do New Year? Well, or not, whatever that is. But when you let that desperation go of things having to be a certain way, that's when the world opens up for us.
Well, because that's the thing, right? Is that when we let go of desperation, we can step into inspiration.
Yes.
Yes.
And when you lost your spark, desperation just spirals. It's a hamster wheel.
It is. And so that's why in both of our examples and stories, it's about surrender. It's about, oh, there's my indicator, there's my tap on the shoulder to say, walk away
Yeah.
for a wee bit. Walking away from a project where you're feeling, oh, I have to get it done. I said I was going to get it done. And no, but maybe the best action you can do is go for a nap.
Mm.
And then
Yeah,
come back to it and you see it. And maybe your spark's completely back because you looked after what your physical need was at that point, right?
And it is a recalibration. It is a recalibration because sometimes you do need to switch off. Like there's so much going on. You do need to switch off. Now, if you're going to have a nap and you're driving, that's a little bit of a whole
don't do that when you're driving.
There's a time
or
and
unless you pull over on a layout.
Don't just shut your eyes when you're doing it. But I love that, and it's just a recalibration again. Pulling it back to that. So I think the other thing is look at your expectations.
Very
with
important.
Moira, but look at your expectations and what you have on yourself, what you have on your friends and colleagues, but also what you have on the universe.
Yeah.
You have an expectation that you're going to have power for the rest of your life. And if the power goes out, oh no, that's not cool because you're doing things. But like these expectations, my friends are going to pick me up at 7 o'clock. Well, if they're 10 past, then you could, lose interest. So these are these things. What are those expectations? And other people's expectations may not necessarily be yours.
No, I know. I was just thinking if you're thinking your friends are going to pick you up at 7, but maybe they have already thought, well, I'll pick her up at 8.
Yeah, definitely.
Communication is a good one in here.
Actually, there's another one. Oh, there's another one, communication. But look at your expectations of what you expect other people to do and what you expect yourself to do.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I should know better. Stressologist, I've got stress. I should know better. Well, actually, sometimes, I'm human and I don't want to pull out my self-soothing kit. I just want to feel.
Yeah.
And if that's what I've got to do, then that's perfect and divine for me.
That's part of the journey. That's part of what makes us who we are, is that we're willing to experience the opposite side to having that, right? So if for me, I teach a lot about inner peace and intuition, but I need to experience the times that I'm not feeling peaceful and I'm not listening to my intuition in order to allow that to become much more top of mind or much more available, right?
Yeah.
The willingness.
Well, I can't believe we've shot through to the end of this. And, you know, next time you hear our voice is going to be next year, people. So this is a little bit weird. So we're gonna sum up our strategies for when you lose your spark. Now, Moira, I know we're summing up now, but if you have anything, you're welcome to throw that in at the end, because you know we have no expectation on how this rolls. So if you can think of another one, then throw that in. But we're gonna kick off with grab your note-taking device, because we are going to sum up what we've said in as quick as possible for us. But when Moira started, she talked about a heart coherent exercise, and I'm going to pull you back to that, because there was so many golden nuggets in that, and you would have heard about it, but you may not have taken notes. But do what works for you from that, because the heart coherent, pulling yourself back to your heart, allows it to take it away from our brain capacity and back to our heart, reminding ourselves that that's where we live. So there were some beautiful golden nuggets in that heart coherent exercise. So go back and listen to that at the start. And you'll notice we've probably done this for the last 5 or 6, but you can go to every single one at the start of our podcast, and each of them are done differently.
Every one of them. Yep.
Every one is done differently in their own way. So no matter what you learned last week, here's another little one, another little exercise added to that. So they're beautiful ones just to help pull us back to that heart coherency. And that will definitely give you a strategy to help you lose your spark.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent way to start it off. The next one that we did, and this, I love this one. This was, you said that to sing, dance, move, shake it off, change your state. Get it, just get some, shake it off. I'll do that with people when I'm doing energy. Like, I'll get them to get into an energy of something, and then Kate, shake it all off, and just shake your hands and shake your body, shake your bum. That's it. Shake it off.
Well, I even if I'm talking to a client, and I don't do a lot of video, mainly headset, and so I'm sitting there and I'm typing the notes, and then sometimes I'll just get up and I'll walk around my office, and it gives me a different energy. It changes my state instantly, because if I'm standing and I'm walking and talking, I have a different level of vibration than if I'm sitting typing the notes.
Yeah.
I then run back to my computer and start typing up what I've just done, which is is probably my weakest thing that I do, because I do it with Moira. I'm listening to Moira, and then I'm like, oh shoot, she just gave us 3 tips. I have to write them down. And it does get like that, because I do get present to what it is. But I love that shake it up. And what Moira put me on, is the babies laughing. Oh, you wouldn't believe I wrote babies crying on my piece of paper.
Oh gosh. That would change your state.
That would change. Listen to babies crying. That would make everyone insane. But babies laughing, listen to babies laughing on YouTube, watching them. But I will say, set a time, because I just became obsessed, and half a day.
Whoops,
just
look at what happened.
Yeah. So change your state, shake it up. But definitely listen to babies laughing. I don't know why I've got crying
My
there.
favorite. Sort of my favorite. The next one that I had written down here was my suggestion of accept and investigate what would light you up again. So accept. This is just a moment. It's a moment of me having lost my spark. That's okay. It's okay. And then investigate. That can mean journal about it, talk about it, meditate on it, do a brain dump about it. But and then ask the question, what would ignite that spark again? Right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And there's a big factor in this one, and this is trust. Trust yourself, trust the universe, trust others, trust that you're on the right path at the right place at the right time. And because we've been in this situation before. So if you don't trust, you've been in the situation before and you've got through it.
Yeah.
So we all have these moments, and this is part of human nature. So trust that it's on the way, not in the way. Thank you, John Demon. Yeah.
And that's the other part of trust, is just because it feels like you've lost it, it's not gone. It's still there. You just need to recalibrate, maybe.
Just that was under
the next one I had said was if you are in that place of feeling like you've lost your spark, it doesn't mean you get to be mean to yourself.
Yeah.
that brought that Deb reaction there. So,
Yeah, and that's what was it? Would you talk to yourself like you would talk to would you use those words to talk to your friend or a family or someone you cared about?
yeah, and that's when I shared that story about that client, listening to him beat himself up relentlessly, and then have him tell me how would he have talked to his son. It's like, well, now you can see that, and so it's to always remind you that it's so important to speak to yourself like you would speak to someone you loved, right?
Mm.
You
Yeah.
deserve that.
I know, because if you heard someone speak to your friend or your family member like the way you speak to yourself, you'd probably want to step in there.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
So be aware of that. And I know I talked about being seen, heard, acknowledged. It's not just for other people, but actually see yourself, hear yourself, and acknowledge yourself. And that goes back to, have we not got anything? I suppose I haven't got around it. Oh, under your accept and investigators, don't avoid it. So if you see, hear, and
Right.
acknowledge yourself, don't avoid it. Just
Yeah.
go, okay, this is it. This
Yeah.
is where I'm going. Yeah.
Yep.
The next tip I have is an accountability partner. I don't know if accountability is the right word. I was going to Google it, but I got sidetracked. So an accountability partner is someone who can lift you up, who can pull you back to reality, who can
Could be a sounding board, couldn't it?
Yeah, all those things. And a sounding board, that's valid. Yeah, just listen to me, please. And this is where Debz and Moira come in. We are here with over, I don't know, did we say 80 years
I
experience?
think we said 80. That's kind of freaky,
Oh,
but I think we did say that.
Makes me wonder. 80, yeah, 80 years experience between us, so we can help you. We can be that sounding board. We are here to teach you to fish. We're not going to fish for you. We're going to fish alongside you, and we're going to show you how to do it. But we're here, and when you've got family or friends and you're sharing that wisdom or your thoughts as wisdom, your frustrations or anything, they have their own stories. And I know from many years of experience, I've shared things and people go, oh, I haven't seen you for 5 years. Last time I saw you, you were going through this. And it's like, that's 5 years ago. I've well and truly been through a lot more from them. So be aware that family, friends, those who know you also have a perception of you. And so they hold on to their stories for that as well. So Moira and I don't. I'm just going to say we already have a perception of you because you're coming to see us, that you want to evolve. That's our perception, is that you're ready and willing to do whatever it takes to change your world.
Up level. Yeah. And then you saying, sharing that tip made me share the piece that I said about the philosophy from Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, about being very mindful and cautious about who you share, your vulnerabilities, your little ideas. I say little, the seeds of your big intentions, is to always make sure that you're sharing them with people who get you, or who can hold a space of neutrality or are supportive, not that would be derogatory or talk you out of it or tell you you're silly or things of that nature. Because when we're really being vulnerable, we need to make sure that we are allowing that softness to have a sounding board, but also to get to the next level of confidence or capability. That's going to help you find your spark and hold on to it, right?
Yeah. And can I just say, I know we're summing up our tips, but these tips aren't challenging. They don't have to be challenging and hard for you.
No.
Like these things we're giving you are actually achievable.
Yeah.
That have worked for us and worked with our clients, but it work. They just work. Yeah.
They do. They work.
The next one I had is no.
Yep. Be okay to say no.
And say no more often. Yeah. If it doesn't light your spark and it feels like it's going to deflate you, say no. That's the people. We've got the New Year's coming up tonight. If you don't want to go out now, and it's whatever time you're listening to this, and you don't want to go out, then it's okay to say no. Okay to, you don't have to give an excuse. Just say, I'm not up for it. Like, you don't have to do anything. Just, tonight doesn't work for me. Thank you. Yep. And it's okay. I hired a business mentor and I said no to my first one. Like, I don't like you. And you're cautious of the energy they're putting into you. Be aware of that stuff. So say no to people. And I think I wrote down here, may your head and heart speak with one voice. And when you're saying no to people, ensure that your head and heart are aligned, because
Definitely.
otherwise it's going to be delivered in a way that may not be acceptable to them.
Yep.
But it's acceptable
Such an
to
important,
you.
it's such an important one, because that's what we're talking about, being in congruence. And you shared your business mentor story, and I shared my driving instructor story. It's because
So,
my
yeah.
example was where I didn't say no, and then as a result failed my first driving exam. But then, and there really was no reason other than I wasn't in congruence with that first instructor.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
why it's so important. Because that, and you know, if somebody came that knew me back then and said, oh, you know, Moira, you didn't say no, it's like, well, that version of me certainly doesn't exist.
Well, that's long gone now, matey patati. I'm no longer that
I
person.
am totally
no,
okay to say no now.
and I live in where I am. Yeah, I love that. I love that. The next, oh, who's doing the next one? Is it
Oh,
you or me?
I think it's me, because I was just adding on to yours.
Oh, I
The
don't even
next
know
one
who.
I had here was to celebrate. Celebrate what you get to
Yes.
work on.
Yeah.
Celebrate. Like, woohoo. I think I've lost my spark, but I get to, you know, roll my sleeves up and make New Year the bestest yet.
Yeah, it's funny actually. I just thought of that yesterday. I spoke to a lady, and she said, "Oh, they're looking at making people redundant, and I might have to apply for my job." And I didn't even think about it. I went, "Oh my freaking God, that's fantastic!" I said, "You get to choose what type of job you want to do." And I just went on this whole big spiel, and there was her and her husband, and they just look. I didn't read the room clearly. And I was like, oh my God, you get to choose what you want. What type of people do you want around you? How much money? What hours? And I just went into this huge big spiel about celebrating life, that you get this. And she just went, no, Deborah, you're missing it. I think I'm going to lose my job. And I went, no. And then finally at the end of me realizing I didn't read the room, they actually, that was one of their problems they wanted to address with me, but I didn't know that part. I missed that one. But yeah, I was celebrating that she got to have a whole different opportunity. She gets to pick and choose. She gets to choose what
Right.
she wants to do. Now, at the end of the conversation, I will say it was just one of those discovery calls that you have. But at the end of the conversation, she said, I can see what you're meaning, how you celebrate life. You talk about celebrating life. She said, I can see your whole face just lit up when I was telling you I was potentially going to lose my job. And so, yeah, so I just said to her, start writing. But it'll be interesting to see what actually happens to her if she has this phenomenal, or she decides to change what one it is. But she's going to celebrate life, and I think that's the beautiful thing, is you get to choose.
Yeah.
Choose that. Yeah. Poor Deborah didn't read the room. I know you find that really hard to believe, listeners. But I was like, woohoo, how exciting. Yeah.
Too funny. I like it.
No. Yeah. Whoops. The next one I have is PEMS.
Yes.
PEMS, your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. Be aware of what they are, acknowledge them. They're not permanent. You know, if you're losing your spark, go, okay, well, today I feel like an 8. That's okay. And yesterday I felt like a 3. Or even 2 hours ago I felt like a 3, and now I'm at an 8. And that gets part of that. You know, we talked about accountability and accept and investigate. When your PEMS is out of order, go back. You know, what could light your spark? Go back to that tip that we said earlier on.
Yeah.
With your, it's all movable. It's not permanent.
Definitely. The next one I wrote down was to invite you to define what losing your spark is. What is that? Is it that you're feeling, well, we both gave examples of it, feeling like, oh, I can't do that, I don't want to do that, or with me, is having me tantrum, don't make me do that. That's me to me. And so giving yourself permission to look at where it is that you're feeling depleted. And it could be physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. It could be just you don't have the bandwidth. Maybe you've got too much on your plate and you just need to reset, go for a nap, go for a walk, go for a dance, sing, things like that. So it's about knowing what is that to you. Yeah. That helps you get back into your sparkly nature.
is. And I love that tip that she said. The other one I had here was surrender.
Yeah.
And I don't know if surrender is that one of my trigger words. I think it's
Oh
one of my
no,
weird.
really?
It was just
I'd
like
keep discovering these.
got a dictionary full of them. But I just have to giggle because I'm like, oh, there's another word. Wow, add that one to the list that I don't even know where that list is. But surrender means go with the flow. And
Yeah,
it
means letting go.
and you're not desperate. You're
Yeah.
not desperate for. We know that when you're desperate for an outcome, when you finally let that go, that's when the universe provides for us, and it is part of recalibrating. So that's a beautiful reminder. Is how desperate are you? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what added onto that one when you said it was that when we release desperation, inspiration can take over.
Yes. Okay. So I
Yes.
started writing things, and then I was like dot dot dot. So I was like, perfect. Yeah.
I like that. But I like surrendered. But maybe you just need to say letting go. Letting go and going with the flow.
Go. Yeah, you've got a letting go process. So
I
yeah,
do.
definitely. Yeah, I think I'll just use letting go now.
There you
Sounds a
go.
little bit. I've got one more. Have you got one more?
I actually have 3 more.
Oh, great. I love that. Okay. What have you got then?
Well, the next one I had was to look at your expectations.
That's the one I've got. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Right. So you look at your expectations of yourself, others, and the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's important, because if you're saying I want black and they're saying I want white, your worlds apart. So look
Yep.
at your expectations of what you want, look at others, and yeah, pull that back together. What's your other two?
So the last 2 are actually kind of related to that. The next one was to communicate what you want, because that's what we were saying. It's like that was the example, right? You're saying, oh, they're going to come and pick me up at 7, but maybe you haven't communicated that, and they're going to come and pick you up at 8.
And you're then going to be losing your spark. You're
Yeah.
then, because
Yeah.
that's an hour of him to sit around that you could have done something else, or
Yeah.
that's gonna
And
that's
it could
gonna
have been avoided just simply by communicating. Basics here.
yeah, that's
But the last one that I had was where I talked about being willing to experience all that is not what it is we say we want.
oh yes.
Right? So it's like if, and my example was if that I teach and I exist in and embody inner peace and following my intuition, but I am willing to experience and go through times and phases of the lack of it, not listening to my intuition, not having inner peace, being completely discombobulated. That's why I like that word so much, because I can move through it.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a movable one. I love that. Well, the tip I've got, the last tip I've
Oh,
got
see, she
is
did have another one.
it's New Year's Eve in New Zealand. It's if you're over Moira's side of the hood, you've got another day to go.
Yeah.
But just know that New Year's can stir up a whole lot of emotion.
Mhm.
It can stir up a whole lot of emotion going, I didn't do what I wanted to do this year. I'm bringing that energy into next year. I haven't got the same people around me, or I'm doing a party different, or I'm doing something different. So just know that New Year's is just a date.
Yeah.
It is just a date, and it is whatever you want it to be. And that goes back to that expectation. Whatever you want it, desire it to be, it's up to you to make that your way.
Because you are the boss of you.
Yeah, you are the boss of you.
You are the boss of you.
So that's our strategies for when you lose your spark. I trust you got some golden nuggets from that. I'm just going to pull it back to at the start. Moira gave us a heart coherent exercise, and it's just about pulling us back to our heart, away from our head. And we did a quote: "May your head and heart speak with one voice." That was last week's tip from Moira's tea bag.
Yes.
Just going to say, may your head and heart speak with one voice. So if you're looking to if you've lost your spark, pull yourself back to your head and heart and speak with one voice and align them together, because that is where you're going to have the greatest result, the greatest traction, the greatest evolution in what's going on for you, and the greatest movement from the heart is when your head and heart align. So that we've given some valuable tips here today. Just find so the next step for you is, if you like the next step is for you, is let us know what tip you really, really, really liked. Let us know what that tip you really, really, really liked. And I also encourage you, because it is New Year's in New Zealand, but one more day for Moira's clan over the other side of the world, is write down what you're thankful for.
Yeah,
Or if
nice.
if you can't write it down, shut your eyes and just riff off as many as you want to things that you're thankful for right now. And even if you didn't make the money you wanted to make this year, or even if you didn't connect with the person you want to connect, or you've lost things this year, and compared to last year, or anything going on, be thankful for what you have.
Yeah.
Because you have another opportunity to experience the next day and the next hour doing things that you love. So this is up to you to have your world your way.
With sparkles.
Anything you'd like to say before I do sign it off, Moira?
Just that. You are a sparkly being. We all have a beautiful spark, and that's the purpose of our life, is to find it and share it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
So thank you, Moira. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, Internet. And that's our deliciously motivated mindset conversation with strategies for when you lose your spark. Thank you, everybody. And let's bring on the new year with a different level of spark. Let's go do some
up-leveled spark.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Love it.
Thank you, listeners. Thanks, Moira. And yeah, thanks, Internet. Phew.
Yeah. Thank you, Internet. Thank you, listeners. We will see you on the next year.
Yeah, see you next year.
2025. See you next year.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.